Mercer Bears and property law YouTube scholars. Today I'm going to give a little bit of a tour of the residence I grew up in and then cover a legal issue that arose when I was a little kid. So we moved here around the year 2000, about 20 years ago almost, and here is the deed of the original transaction. And you can see we got lot numbered 120 of the replat. And the replat occurred June 8th, 1978 by a firm called Moon, Meeks, and Patrick. This was so long ago, I'm not sure if that firm even exists anymore, but pretty cool to learn about that. And so now back to the house. This is the corner of the yard, which is what hosted a lot of backyard football games and broken bones over the years. And if you look closely, here is a picture of us playing in the yard and a young Mr. Portachef swinging on the swing, our classmate himself. And so this grassy area is on a downhill slope, and it's after a rain, it has a hard time draining. And so they had to put some effort into solving that issue to be able to utilize the backyard. And I found it pretty interesting that in the original lot map, if you read closely, this is a drainage and utility easement right in this corner of the yard. So that's pretty relevant to our studies. And now back to the house. The central issue, what occurred was, as you can see, our lot runs up to this other property, which used to be the Turner's yard. And you can see these trees. Let me zoom in a little bit. Oh, yeah. So these trees are right next to their lawn, the grass. And a while ago, they began to sprout roots that spread into their lawn to the point where one day Mrs. Turner and their lawn service knocked on our door and told us that the lawn service was going to refuse to cut the grass there because it would damage their super expensive lawnmowers and equipment. So my dad and I did the right thing as neighbors, and we cut down the trees that now they're starting to grow back. But that subsequently ended the roots, which died off. But I've always been interested, what if they had damaged their lawnmowers? Could we be somehow liable for those damages? And so I did a little research and came up with the majority rule on this for tree branches and roots. If they're encroaching into a neighbor's yard, most of the time you won't be liable for any damages. But if they're encroaching on your yard, you can trim the roots or branches to the point where you're not trespassing on your neighbor's property. And now, a minority of jurisdictions, if you can recover damages, it normally requires a substantial major structural damage to occur, so it sounds like in our situation this wouldn't have really turned into anything. But one more detail is courts have found it differently if we had intentionally planted a row of trees along this line. Then it sounds like courts would be more willing to award damages. But that is our issue that occurred, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, YouTubers.